Hey, Kafka here. Remember me? Listen, I'm back and better than ever thanks to some gigantic buffs. Kafka will be getting some very substantial changes that make her stronger in damage, but also in detonation frequency and amplification, reinforcing her role as the dot enabler. I hope that doesn't age badly. Anyway, let's check out what they did to make her so much better, and then we'll check out her new best builds and new best Lycones. She has a very funky build that spams dot detonations through the roof. Like and subscribe if this helps, share to all Kafka believers, and let's begin. So let's check out her brand new abilities and changes one by one. Caressing Moonlight got a massive boon with the 3.4 changes. Something everyone has been asking for has arrived, and that is Blast Detonation. Now Kafka will detonate the central target's darts at a value of 75% just like before, but she will additionally detonate darts on adjacent enemies at a value of 50% of their original damage. Not only is this a gain in her damage, but it also synergizes with her current bestie, Black Swan. Black Swan really wants her Arcana stacks, and Kafka being able to stack 3 per enemy hit with her skill is a great boost for team damage. Then Kafka's ultimate already detonated all targets hit, so nothing new there. However, one major change was added, and one quality of life change will lead to another massive buff. First off, her ult will now detonate darts at 120% of their original damage, a 1.2 times boost to the previous effect. A really nice AoE bump in power, especially with the skill buff. But secondly, you can see that unlike before 3.4, her ult will innately be able to detonate all dot types. Before, you needed to unlock her A2, and this means she will get a brand new A2, which we'll see in just a bit. Then her talent got 2 key changes and an additional buff in her traces. Instead of relying on a basic attack on an enemy target to trigger her follow-up, well, now all you need is any attack from Kafka's teammates. So a Black Swan skill, ultimate, a possible sustains damaging ultimate. It's really nice quality of life. But when combined with her second change, it gets even nicer. Now she'll be able to trigger her follow-up twice turn, with one use being recovered at the end of Kafka's turn. But how do we get 2 follow-ups? Well, they gutted the base chance buffs in her A6, but that's just fine as we'll see, and gave her a new passive. So now when Kafka ults, she will regain a trigger count of her follow-ups. This means, for example, use skill and then ult on your turn, and then your allies can use 2 damaging skills just after, and activate 2 follow-ups. But just some attack multipliers is nothing, why do follow-ups matter? Well, now they will detonate all dots on the target they hit, and that is a massive single target buff for her and her team. Every turn, she will now essentially get an 80% dot detonation to a single target on top of everything else she does. If she ults, that's a 160% dot detonation. And again, with Black Swan desperately wanting Arcana stacking, this detonation frequency is going to juice up her damage so much. Remember, it will stack 3 Arcana per follow-up if you had 3 dots on the enemy. Every new detonation source is a big help for Dot's premium team. So now onto her trace passives. Remember, her old A2 was moved directly to her ultimate innately, just as I had hoped in my buff speculations. But this means Hoyo was like, okay, let's go all out with a 3-point tier passive. I was shocked when I saw this. When an ally target's effect hit rate is 75% or more, Kafka increases the target's attack by 100%. That's right, a Harmony tier buff. Now you can't just get this on any DPS, you won't build 75% effect hit rate on a crit DPS and use Kafka support, that's not happening. But the normal teammates Kafka goes with will love this. Oh, and this buff includes herself by the way. So Black Swan and Kafka can now get 100% attack while stacking up EHR for their debuff chances. It's a crazy buff. Effect hit rate felt bad to build for, but now it just feels great, especially since EHR and attack percent have the same substat value. Remember that Kafka's 30% base chance passive got removed, so she will build to 67% EHR and should absolutely go to 75% for the buff. The only other big ally that can use this outside of dot units would be Robin in the 2 dot Harmony team. Robin with an EHR chest and building to 75% effect hit rate would mean she gets 25% attack for free on top of the attack percent subs on the EHR chest you can now get. Because of how much attack she gives already, on top of Kafka giving 100% to herself and Black Swan, this is way less crazy than you'd think, it's quite a small bonus, and it isn't a must at all to farm for, but it's fun to mention. The final buffs Kafka got were 2 Eidolon changes, in E1 and E2. E1 will now no longer be super annoying. Previously, you needed to trigger a follow-up, and you'd have a single target 30% dot vulnerability. Well now, she can just use any attack, which means she is no longer gated to follow-ups, but then can also apply it in full AoE situations with her ult and blast with her skill. It's a huge AoE gain for your Dot team. E1 Kafka and E1 Black Swan are just massive vertical investment options for Dot. And E2 got buffed by like 8% Dot damage. Very small buff, I think it's an Expedition 33 reference. I guess E4 also got even stronger now with her added Dot frequency, but she can do some crazy ultimate rotations already at E0. We'll see that soon. So she got mega buffed. A lot of quality of life, a lot of damage buffs, and a lot of new kit mechanics, and a whole harmony buff in her passive. She is now the Dot enabler, even though she was already, but it will just cement her there in this position. She does more damage, but she supports so much better than before, which is the best way they could have gone with her kit. Just buffing damage only would have let her be power capped again, but with future Dot DPS, she will definitely enable them like crazy. And so when simulating Black Swan and Kafka with a raw Mei before 3.4 and then after 3.4, I got some very big results. Remember, team sims are not the same as actual practice, but they also do just perform way better too. Anyway, a 3.4 buffs, at least in my sim, saw the overall team damage jump by a very high 80%. So she could clear before with enough effort, but now she feels good again and should hopefully shine even more with our next Dot release. I just hope they don't ignore Dot again after said release. And so what do we build on the Dot team now? She has become such a high detonation spammer that we will actually swap to a more supportive build to maximize it even further. Kafka does more damage and can technically stay damagey, but for the best team performance, you'll now be using Black Swan's kit to do damage through Kafka's high action count and new abilities. Black Swan will now be able to go slower, opt for even more attack percent in substats and a damage percent orb, and Kafka will use those mega stats and mega arcana stacks to blow enemies up. So for Black Swan, I would recommend just going 135 speed now, still acting in a good breakpoint and getting some Glamoth value if using that planar. Her additional turns at 160 breakpoints are no longer that impactful when it will be Kafka and enemy turns that give her most of her damage. Base speed Black Swan is also possible for this reason, but I prefer going to 135 as you will want consistent ally attacks to trigger Kafka's follow-ups, and you will want her Death Shred when you need it for using tutorial eventually. With the abundance of attack percent, she can now run damage percent orb again, and you can put the new Revelry planar set on her for more damage. But now for Kafka's build. For her new relics, you will actually want to go the wind set, and this won't matter on your light cone. Having more actions will net you more detonations, and as said before, we're just going to be abusing our decent shock numbers on top of Black Swan's high arcana stacks. The better the main Dot DPS, the stronger taking more actions on Kafka becomes. If you want a similar effect, 2-piece speed combos as always would work, you'll just miss out on cool breakpoints. And you can still go with the old reliable prisoner set, especially since most people have probably farmed this set too much if they're an OG Dot enjoyer. But yeah, wind set is the way to go for team damage right now. And for planar ornaments, since we are going more supportive, using the Lushanka set is a great way to help her new energy rotations and give Black Swan a final little buff. The new Revelry set is best for her Dot damage, but it's not far ahead of Glamoth at 160, and I really prefer the safety of the 5% energy. For her best light cones, you will now also want to opt for supportive light cones. Kinda like how Black Swan could go Jiaochu's light cone before, well now she can too. So her best light cones will be tutorial for the cursed 1-turn old Kafka we'll see in a bit. Then you have Cypher's light cone for high damage amp and speed, and then other damage amp cones like Jiaochu's signature, the new battle pass cone, and resolution. Her signature is still great because of its erode and speed and damage, and maybe future Dot units will want it for that erode over these currently better options. If she's E4, she can also use it to a greater extent, due to it counting as another shock for energy gains. I do wish they made the signature better to help fit the kit, but it's not like it got worse, it's more that other options got better in the supportive Kafka playstyle. It's still just fine to use. And in Pure Fiction, your Death Shred uptime is going to be very minimal, so tutorial is not possible there until further notice. But you can instead run solitary healing for a similar effect and still spam out ults out the wazoo. For main stats, you'll want to go for an EHR chest. Attack percent is possible with an EHR light cone. Speed boots always, damage or attack percent orb, and an energy or attack percent rope. I recommend energy. Let's check out energy rotations and see why. Kafka can do a 2-turn rotation with 2 skills and her new 2 follow-ups. With an energy rope and planar, she's hitting 106 energy, which is guaranteed by a quid pro quo, Kafka getting 1 non-pure fiction kill, allies getting 3 kills, or you being hit. But then add on tutorial and you get the 1-turn souls. With your ult hitting a death reduced enemy, 2 follow-ups likewise, and then your skill on your turn. You can ult again if you get a kill, allies get 2 kills, you get a quid pro quo proc, or you're hit by enemies. It is hard to always guarantee, but it happens a bunch in practice. Going from 3 turns to 2 turns even without tutorial and then 1 turn with tutorial makes energy rope really desirable. Remember, she's giving herself 100% attack, or over 2 main stats, so why not spare some for your team to do more detonations?
Finally, I thought I'd include this for E4 Kafka players, but patience is all you need with her new detonation frequency can go crazy just like tutorial. Her E4 works every time shock is detonated, and her erode counts as a secondary one. So here, you'd get the benefit of tutorial's energy with the power of her signature. So at least it's best for E4 plus Kafka.
And so for a stat goal, aim for 75% EHR to guarantee debuffs and get your attack buff. For attack, you can aim for 2,500 to 3,000, but this is before counting the 100% attack buff she gives herself in combat when hitting her EHR goal. For speed, I'd aim for the classic 160 if you don't want to worry. 150 is also fine with the win set, and an especially juicy but hard to hit breakpoint is 167 if you do manage to pull off the 1-turn ult rotation, as that with the win set will result in 3 actions in the very first cycle. Remember, if using Rome in your team, these breakpoints are much easier to hit. Now, the team synergy section is going to be a little short. Dot really has had nothing since Black Swan, only really getting E2 Jiao Cho as a consolation prize. You can use the old Dot units like Sampo, Gwenaif, and Luca, but Dot was already struggling with Black Swan Kafka, so even with the buffs, it's hard to recommend 4-star Dot units. Anyway, her premium team will be composed of herself, Black Swan, a universal high uptime buffer, and a sustain. In these last 2 slots, a new Dot unit may be able to replace the buffer thanks to Kafka's utility, or you can try replacing the sustain for sustainers runs. The buffer can be legit nearly anyone, and that's the beauty of never releasing a Dot harmony. You can use nearly anyone you don't use in the other team. Jiao Cho will work, Rame will work, Robin will work, Cypher will work, Tribi will work. They will all perform similarly or better than one another depending on different factors. Jiao Cho has dot damage but weaker buffs than someone like Ron Mei, who gives speed and extra dot procs on enemies. Robin has the potential for your whole team to cycle everything again. Cypher gives you high damage amp control with a large wave 2 burst. Tribi has just a ton of damage to help your dot units, and a lot of follow-ups to help with Kafka's follow-ups. If you have an E1 of any of these units, they can just take the lead over the rest, with the stronger E1s winning, like Tribi and Robin. If you do have an E2 Jiao Cho though, for whatever reason, he would be best hit for damage, but that's a lot of pulls. For sustains, I recommend either using Huohuo, but don't waste all your SP on her, or Gallagher. Gallagher would allow your team to use more SP, so your Black Swan or support, and then he can also run Quid Pro Quo really well to let your team hit some nice energy breakpoints. Not much else to say about the Dot team right now, but let's hope the archetype is back for good, and hopefully gets the support that can fix some of its core design problems. And no, Dot's critting won't fix their actual problems. Let me know what you think of these buffs though, and if you're going to start playing Kafka again. If this helped, be sure to like and sub, and share with others that might need help. Thanks for watching, thanks to my amazing YouTube members, and have a Guoba day.